Lots of questions after a Russian jet hit a U.S. drone over the Black Sea. But the Pentagon says the U.S. is taking measures to ensure the drone will not fall into the wrong hands after yesterday's incident, and that it's unlikely Russia will be able to successfully recover debris because it likely broke apart. But we may not know more details about the remaining debris for days.
This is probably about 4,000 or 5,000 feet of water, and it probably, don't know for certain yet, it'll be days before we have actual facts on the impact and what debris is there. Probably sank to some significant depths. So any recovery operation from a technical standpoint would be very difficult. If there is reason to believe that we could or recover something, then we'll work up options for the Secretary and the President to consider, and we'll move from there. But we do have options, and we do have friends and allies in the region.
All right, here to talk more about what happens now is retired Marine Intelligence Officer Hal Kempfer. Hal, thank you so much for your time. Let's just start with the question on so many people's minds. How is the White House going to play this? Is the Biden administration ready to confront Russia militarily if necessary?
Nichole, what we're seeing is that they're kind of walking it back a little bit. Look, it was deliberate. Going out there with those two Su-27s and confronting the MQ-9 Reaper. There's no doubt about that. That what they did was with the fuel drop, trying to basically mask the sensors and some of the things they're doing is very deliberate. However, what they have said is we're not sure if the actual strike hitting the propeller of the Reaper was a deliberate act. It could have been an accidental act. Obviously, the Russian pilot was very reckless in what he was doing, but it does provide a little bit of an off-ramp to de-escalate this. And of course, the other thing is that the plane is in such deep water that it's kind of taking the salvage operation off the table for a while because it'll be so difficult for the Russians to try and locate that plane, let alone raise anything of value from it.
Well, Hal, let's talk about what Defense Secretary Austin said today, that he spoke with his Russian counterpart, hadn't spoken to him since last fall. What do you think was the actual tone of that conversation today?
Oh, I imagine it was very straightforward. There's not a lot of cordiality between us and any of the Russian officials right now. So it was probably very direct, very much stating our position on this. Now, the one possibility of some sort of confrontation could be on the water if we are doing some sort of salvage operations and the Russians are trying to do a salvage operation at the same time. There could be something where the two different ships or whatever, or multiple ships run into each other, and there could be something going on there. I imagine they may have been addressing that possibility. The other thing, too, is the Russians have to think about doing a salvage operations. The Ukrainians have been very adept at using drones to include unmanned surface drones to attack ships on the Black Sea. If the Russians put these ships in a known location, they potentially could become a target for Ukrainian drone strikes. And that has to be part of the calculus that the Russians are working in terms of what are they going to do in terms of trying to go after these drones, go after the drone.
That's a very good point. Hal Kempfer, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Nichole.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.